You came back from the dead a man bent on revenge. Yet you chose to stand by and watch your enemy from the last life march toward ruin. You not only failed to stop her from taking the hotel keycard that would alter her fate, you even looked on, indifferent, as she kept sliding downhill, and you didn't lift a finger when she lost her guaranteed admission. But when she finally realized all of it was a payback you had orchestrated, you had already found someone truly worth protecting. Jessica Miller and I were unshakably the top two in our grade, leapfrogging each other until we both secured guaranteed spots at the nation's top university. On the day before the admission interview, Jessica accepted a hotel keycard from the school bully. Fearing she'd make one wrong move and wreck her future, I brought a teacher to block her at the hotel entrance. Later, we entered university together, graduated, married, and had a daughter. Happy home, smooth careers. Until the day of our daughter's 1-month celebration, when Jessica carried her up to the rooftop, cursed me for ruining her first love, and swore she'd make me taste the pain of losing the one I loved. With that, she tossed our baby from the 33rd floor. I dove after that tiny body and still couldn't catch even a corner of the swaddling cloth. If I could do it over, I would never meddle with her future. "Give it back!" Jessica's furious shout snapped me awake. Seeing her in a school uniform and the key card in my hand, I realized I had been reborn. It was the day before our interview. Jessica had just accepted the hotel key card from the campus tyrant Jason Smith, and I had witnessed it. In my last life, afraid she'd been sweet-talked into a choice she'd regret forever, I snatched the key card and urged her to put school first. She wouldn't listen, so I went to the teacher. That night, we rushed to the hotel entrance and stopped her. The next day, both our interviews went smoothly. Before senior year even ended, we'd locked in our tickets to the top university in the country. The day the results came out, Jessica treated me to dinner alone and thanked me solemnly. "Luke Dawson, thank you. If you hadn't stopped me that night, a lot of things might have turned out differently." Only much later did I learn that because Jessica didn't show up that night, Jason went out street racing and died in a crash. Later still, I learned Jessica had hated me ever since, and only got close to me to take revenge. But back then, I knew none of this. All I knew was that after that incident, she and I grew closer. She swapped seats to sit beside me, went to the cafeteria with me at lunch. We were almost never apart. Classmates saw it and egged us on. Jessica said it outright. "Yeah, Jessica, like Luke." So what? Our teachers, pleased to see the two recommended students paired off, turned a blind eye. And I was, without question, happy. At the opening ceremony our freshman year, I gave the keynote as the year's top student. She stood up from the crowd and called to me. "Luke, I'm Jessica. Remember my name, because next time I'll be number one." She was dazzling and sure of herself, and that fighting spirit burned itself into me. She made good on it, too. On the first monthly exam, she took first, and I came second. After that, in exam after exam, we chased each other down. Neither of us could keep the crown for long. We were each other's momentum, and each other's reason not to slack off. Toward her, I felt not just the flutter of adolescent crush, but the clean admiration one has for a like-minded rival. Because of that, I feared she'd make a lifelong mistake, and I crossed a line to interfere. In my eyes, she deserved a better future. So when she declared her feelings in front of everyone, we naturally started dating. We entered college together, graduated with honors, shone in our respective fields, married at our best, and soon had a child of our love. On our daughter's full-month celebration, we threw a grand banquet. Everyone envied us as winners at life. In the middle of it, she carried our daughter to the roof and told me, word by word, all these years, she had never loved me. She said Jessica loved only Jason. She resented my blocking her back then, hated me for causing Jason's death. She'd been with me only to make me taste the pain of losing the one I loved. Her words struck like thunder. I didn't come to until I saw her lift our daughter high. I dropped to my knees and begged. She could do whatever she wanted to me, just spare our child. So tiny, so soft, so fragile she couldn't bear the slightest harm. Jessica laughed. "Luke, the more you hurt, the better I feel. I want you to know how much I hurt back then." Then she flung the daughter I treasured from the 33rd floor. I hurled myself after that tiny form and still couldn't catch even a corner of the swaddle. The past flashed by like a galloping shadow, only the pain of losing her cut to the bone. Jessica yanked the keycard from my hand and snapped me out of it. Seeing how she cradled that card like a treasure, I swallowed every warning I'd once given, turned, and left to her astonishment. I heard her shout behind me, "Luke, don't tell the teacher." I didn't stop. "Don't worry, Jessica. This time I won't meddle in your choice, and you and I are done." The next day, I went to the interview as before, chatted easily with the panel, and secured my guaranteed admission. Jessica skipped hers. The school immediately called her parents in. No one knew why she hadn't gone. Faced with her teachers and parents, Jessica said coolly, "Because I had something more important." Her mother slapped her on the spot. "Jessica, you studied more than 10 years for this. What could be more important?" I walked into the office just in time to catch the scene. Jessica shot me a glare, jutted her chin, and snapped at her mother and the teachers. "I don't need a guaranteed spot. I can ace the exam anyway." With her swagger and hard line, the guarantee was as good as gone. The teachers, seeing no point in arguing, smoothed things over and told her to prepare for the college entrance exam. Mother and daughter stormed out, brushing past me. When the teachers saw me come in, they forced out a smile despite their dark faces. I felt sorry, but still said, "I'm sorry, sir. I've decided to give up the guarantee and sit the exam." They were stunned and asked why. The reason was simple. In my last life, Jessica and I entered that school on recommendations. There are too many memories there, and I don't want to relive them. But all I could say now was that it no longer fit my plans. I said I wanted to attend another top university of equal prestige. It wasn't a strong reason, but it sounded plausible enough. Seeing my firm stance, the teacher stopped trying to persuade me. News that Jessica and I had both lost our guaranteed admission spread quickly. Our classmates began speculating about the cause. Rumors swirled, and the most popular version claimed Jessica had missed the interview due to illness, while I, hopelessly in love with her, gave up my own spot so I could take the entrance exam with her. I found the rumor ridiculous, giving up one's future for love. What a childish, shallow notion of romance. But not everyone thought so. One evening after school, Jason cornered me at the gate. A cigarette hung from his lips, his arm draped around Jessica's waist. He squinted at me and said, "Hey, nerd, heard you gave up your guaranteed admission for my woman?" I couldn't understand what Jessica saw in a guy like him, and my brow creased. Jessica seemed to enjoy it, though, clinging to him and cooing, "He's just imagining things." "There's nothing between us. You're just being jealous again." Jason ignored her, leaned close to my face, and barked, "Let me tell you something. While you were doing your interview, she was screaming in my bed. Being her lapdog won't get you anywhere." His words were nauseating, and I noticed Jessica's face twist with embarrassment. Ironically, that almost made me laugh. "Relax," I said coldly. "I have zero interest in her." With that, I walked away. The rumor quickly evolved. Jessica had fallen for the school bully, gave up her recommendations so she could test into the same college as him, while I, heartbroken and deranged with unrequited love, had done the same. Jessica and Jason began flaunting their relationship, skipping classes to go on dates. Against the protests of teachers and parents, Jessica stood firm. She even threatened to die for love. I, meanwhile, turned silent and mechanical, spending every day in class and practice exams, unshaken and unchanging. In everyone's eyes, Jessica became a fearless heroine who'd risk it all for love, while I was the pitiful bookworm who knew nothing but studying. I found it all laughable. None of them understood what truly mattered in life yet, but exams would bring them back to reality. A month later, on the mock test, I, unsurprisingly, reclaimed first place. Jessica, however, dropped out of the top 100 for the first time, inching closer to her bottom-of-the-rank boyfriend. I thought our lives would simply drift apart from there, each going our own way. But fate, it seemed, wasn't ready to let us go that easily. One night after evening study, I received an email from an unknown sender. No words, just photos. Jessica and Jason, naked in bed, tangled together, faces flushed with pleasure. Beyond disgust, I felt nothing at all. I had no idea who sent it or why, and I didn't care. Her affairs had nothing to do with me. The next day, I went to class as usual, acting as if I'd never received the message until during the long break. Jason brushed past me in the hallway, deliberately bumping my shoulder. "Like the pictures?" he muttered, voice low but full of challenge. So he was the sender. I stopped and looked at him. His face was full of smugness mixed with excitement and expectation. "Hurts, doesn't it? Seeing your goddess moaning in my bed," he sneered. "Jessica said herself you can't compare to me. Luke, guys like you will always lose to me." A kid not even 18, and he hadn't yet learned to hide his emotions. Every word exposed his intent. He wanted to provoke me, to feel superior. But why? The question flickered through me as I remembered something. It was during an ordinary break when I'd gone to the office to ask a question and happened to see a teacher scolding Jason. When I walked in, the teacher seized the chance for a living example, praising me while crushing Jason underfoot. "Jason, people like you will never measure up to Luke." If I were you, I'd be too ashamed to even look at him. I'd felt only awkward then, mumbled an excuse, and slipped out quickly. That was the only time I ever crossed paths with Jason in my previous life. The next I heard of him, he had fallen for Jessica at first sight and pursued her relentlessly, riding his motorcycle to escort her home, hijacking the school broadcast room to sing her love songs, making his gang of cronies bow and call her sister-in-law whenever she passed. For a girl like Jessica, who'd always lived by the rules, such wild devotion had an irresistible pull. She lost herself in it completely. With fragments from both lives pieced together, everything suddenly made sense. There had never been love at first sight, only a boy whose pride was wounded, venting his resentment on an imagined rival. I looked at Jason and said calmly, "Jason, are you really that insecure around me?" His face flushed scarlet. He raised a fist but dropped it again under the stern gaze of the dean. I went on. "But you're mistaken about one thing. I think you and Jessica are perfect for each other. A match made in heaven." With that, I walked off without another glance. But I wasn't nearly as calm as I looked. A bitter absurdity gnawed at me, the root of it all traced back to me. Memories churned violently in my head, until they fixed on the image of my daughter falling from above. Her tiny body a burst of red that seared my eyes. "Luke!" The teacher's sharp voice dragged me out of the abyss. Frowning, she asked a question. I had no idea which one she was on. I stood up in silence. Then a notebook slid across my desk. Neat handwriting spelled out the answer. I glanced at it, gathered my thoughts, and responded. The teacher's face softened, but before letting me sit down, she added, "Don't let your grades make you complacent. Learning is like rowing upstream. If you're not advancing, you're falling behind." I knew she was using me to warn Jessica. I nodded, offering no argument. The notebook was already gone, reclaimed by its owner, my deskmate, Jennifer Delaney. When I sat down, I whispered a quick thanks. She sat upright, focused on her notes, and didn't respond. In my previous life, she'd only been my deskmate for half a month before switching seats with Jessica, so we weren't close. I just remembered she'd been a middling student, quiet and shy, got into an ordinary university, not remarkable in our class of top scorers. But later, she'd risen through sheer effort, earned a master's at the top university, then a PhD, becoming the most academically accomplished among us. The school even invited her back once to give a speech. A classmate recorded it and shared it in our group chat. She stood alone on the auditorium stage, radiant before a hall full of students, yet still humble in tone. She said she wasn't particularly smart, that high school had been hard for her, and that her introverted nature made her afraid to ask questions. For every question she didn't understand, she had to grind through it alone, though slower than others. With 10 years of steady effort, she made it here. She believed that studying always pays off, that the road is hard, but persistence leads to the goal. Back then, Jessica and I were already married. Watching that video, I truly admired Jennifer's perseverance, while Jessica scoffed. What's so great about that? If I worked as hard as she did, I'd be way better. Thinking of Jessica pulled me out of my memories. After school, Jennifer was still at her desk, quietly working through problems. I hesitated, then said, "If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask me." If possible, I wanted her high school life this time to be a little easier than the last, less lonely, at least. She froze, looked down at her test paper, and nodded without meeting my eyes. Seeing she didn't have any questions, I stood up to leave. Just as I reached the door, I ran into Jessica, glowing with excitement. Wrapped in love, she was in a wonderful mood, smiling at everyone, including me. Seeing that smile stirred up a mess of feelings inside me. I might still hate and resent her, but in this life, she hadn't hurt anyone yet, and whatever love and hate existed between us before would never happen again. Besides, I now knew Jason had pursued her because of me. Even if I still hated her, I couldn't stoop that low. In the end, I showed her the email on my phone. I told her Jason had sent it to me, and that if she wanted to call the police, I could provide proof. What she did next was her choice. Her face went pale after seeing the photos. Then in the next second, she hurled my phone to the floor and slapped me hard across the face. "Luke! I'm warning you. Don't you dare try to come between me and Jason." Her voice was shrill, her nails sharp enough to slice my cheek. It stung a little. I wiped the blood away, looked at it, and suddenly felt a weight lift from my chest. I even felt relieved, because I realized how easy it was to deal with an enemy intent on their own downfall. You didn't need to be cruel or cunning. You could simply stand by and watch them destroy themselves. The photo incident was never mentioned again. I didn't know if they ever talked about it, but rumor had it they kept breaking up and getting back together, still madly in love. Their melodramatic romance became the favorite gossip for bored classmates. Some said they'd slapped each other at the school gate. Others claimed to have seen them kissing passionately in the street. Some even whispered they'd done it in the grove behind school. Nosy classmates would bring it up near me, pretending it was casual, testing my reaction. I always gave the same 6 words: respect other people's fate. It was a truth I'd learned from bitter pain in my past life, one I'd never forget. When they saw I truly didn't care, no one brought up Jessica around me anymore. My life settled back into routine. Classes, memorization, endless problem sets, and occasionally helping Jennifer with hers. At first, she was too shy to ask me anything, until one day I caught her staring blankly at a wrong answer and explained my solution. After that, she didn't hesitate to ask when she got stuck. I began to understand why she had gone further than all of us in my last life. For most students, myself included, studying was just a means to get into college. But for her, learning was the goal itself. She didn't want to solve a problem just to score 2 extra points. She was driven by curiosity, by the need to understand. Her thirst for knowledge humbled me. When the latest exam results came out, the teacher no longer mentioned Jessica's plummeting grades, and no one was surprised I still ranked first. But when the usually invisible Jennifer suddenly broke into the top 10, the whole class was stunned. Even the teacher praised her in front of everyone during homeroom. I wasn't surprised at all. Jennifer advanced steadily, one solid step at a time. Surpassing us was only a matter of time. After school that day, she called out to me at the gate, "Luke, thank you." Her voice was soft, but sincere. I was genuinely happy, not with the self-satisfaction of saving someone, but with the quiet joy of seeing another thrive. "You should thank yourself. This isn't your limit. Don't give up. You'll go higher, farther," I told her earnestly. She blinked, a little taken aback, about to say something when Jessica shoved past her, rushing toward Jason, waiting at the end of the hall. Some classmates witnessed it and mocked Jessica to Jennifer, but Jennifer stayed silent. A few days later, news spread that Jason and Jessica had broken up. Jessica then called in sick and didn't show up for days. I kept my distance from all of it until one afternoon after school, I saw Jason hand Jennifer a bouquet of roses. Instinctively, I frowned, ready to step in, then caught myself. "Luke, have you forgotten again?" Respect other people's fate. Mind your own business. As I hesitated, Jennifer spotted me. Luke, I've got a question to ask you, she shouted, shoving the flowers back into Jason's hands before running toward me. Jason, unwilling to let it go, blocked both of us. I stepped in front of Jennifer. Since she'd asked for my help, I had no reason to back away. The confrontation was about to erupt when Jessica came running toward us in tears, throwing herself into Jason's arms. She was in a hospital gown, barefoot, with gauze wrapped around her left wrist. Cradling his face, she sobbed uncontrollably. Jason, I missed you so much. Jason pushed her away impatiently. What are you doing here? We broke up. Jennifer tugged at my sleeve, urging me to leave, but my back went cold and my feet rooted to the ground. How can you break up with me? Do you know what I've done for you? For you? I even killed my own daughter! Jessica screamed hysterically. Jason looked confused. Jennifer was stunned, and I couldn't stop shaking. She's back. How dare she mention our daughter? How dare she? The world began to sway. A streak of red flooded my vision, coloring everything around me. At the base of the wall to my left lay a broken wooden stick, its splintered edge sharp as a blade. If I drove it into a slender neck and pulled it out, it would spray crimson just like the red that filled my eyes as my daughter fell. The stick drew closer, but someone grabbed my wrist. Jennifer. She looked at me with concern and whispered, Luke? My feverish blood and boiling rage slowly cooled. The blood-red haze faded, and the world returned to normal. Jennifer handed me a tissue. That's when I realized 2 hot streams of tears had already run down my face. She didn't ask anything more, and I quietly wiped them away. Nearby, Jessica and Jason were still arguing. Jason, you said you'd love me forever, she cried, voice full of pain. Jason, as if he'd just heard a joke, gave an exaggerated laugh. Please, you didn't actually believe what I said in bed, did you? Guess even top students can be idiots. If you didn't love me, why did you come after me? Jessica's voice was low and trembling, each word squeezed from her chest. For fun! I just wanted to see how hard it'd be to hook a good little student like you. Turns out it only took me lifting a finger. Jessica fell silent. Jennifer tugged lightly at my sleeve. Shall we go? She whispered. I had given Jessica the freedom she wanted, yet the love she had chased through 2 lives turned out to be something so filthy and cheap. Jessica, I hope you've begun to regret it, to savor the most torturous feeling a human can endure. I nodded and left with Jennifer, but we'd only gone a few steps when a scream tore through the air. If it weren't for me, you'd already be dead. I'll kill you. We turned back just in time to see Jessica hurl herself at Jason like a madwoman, trying to strangle him, only to have him grab her wrists and fling her hard to the ground. She hit the floor with a sickening thud, blood spreading beneath her. The whole thing blew up police cars, ambulances, chaos. The school announced it would handle the matter seriously. But since both Jessica and Jason were minors, and there was no evidence of coercion, and since Jessica had attacked first, Jason claimed self-defense. Both families wanted to keep things quiet, to shrink a big mess into a small one into nothing. In the end, Jason was expelled, while Jessica received a major demerit and probation. After that, I never saw Jason again. The one left behind, Jessica bore everything. Her grades now scraping the bottom of the class. Her body weakened after the miscarriage, the disappointment in her parents' and teachers' eyes, and the gossip that spread like wildfire. After a month's rest in the hospital, she returned to school. Her parents had wanted her to repeat the year, but she insisted on taking the college entrance exam that same year, certain she could catch up. On the day she came back, she looked thin and fragile. 17 and 18-year-olds still had soft hearts. They pitied her, saw her as a victim, and tried to be kind. Only I, the one who had lived 2 lives, was less innocent. Cruel thoughts flickered through my mind. She deserved it, but that was all. She had suffered enough, and I had no desire to tangle with her anymore. But after school, she called out to me. Luke, that day, why didn't you stop me? She asked carefully, testing me. She wanted to know if I was like her, if I, too, had been reborn. I almost laughed. And what if she found out? Would she apologize for what she'd done before? Apologies are useless. They can't erase the pain of the victim. They're just a placebo for the guilty. And I wasn't going to give her that comfort. I looked at her, feigning confusion. Huh? What day? Stop you from what? She exhaled in relief and didn't press further. Back then, I didn't yet realize I should have seen her heart with far darker suspicion. The next morning, when I walked into the classroom, she was standing by Jennifer's desk, acting like she belonged there. Jennifer, let's switch seats, she said. Jennifer finished writing an answer before looking up, her expression calm. Why? Jessica froze. She hadn't expected that question. In the last life, when she'd asked Jennifer to switch, Jennifer had quietly packed up and moved without protest. I just have some questions I want to discuss with Luke. It'd be easier if we sat together, okay? She said, slipping into her usual spoiled tone. As if the whole world owed her indulgence. Jennifer shook her head firmly. Exams are coming soon. You can pick any seat you want after they're over. In our class, seats were reassigned after each exam, ranked by grades. But with Jessica's current performance, her options were limited. The standoff dragged on long enough for classmates to start watching. Jessica's face stiffened with embarrassment. I knew Jennifer meant no harm. She was simply stating a fact. But Jessica took it as an insult. Her cheeks flushed red with anger. Who do you think you are? I just didn't put in effort before. Once I do, I'll be #1 again. She snapped, full of bluster. I suddenly remembered the opening ceremony, when she had shouted those same words across the auditorium. The scene was eerily similar, yet the feeling couldn't have been more different. Back then, she'd been confident, bright, with that fiery, unyielding spirit shining in her eyes. Now, all I could see was jealousy, bitterness, and malice she could no longer hide. Whatever trace of warmth I'd once held for her vanished completely. Jennifer didn't respond, and Jessica stormed off amid whispers and side glances. I returned to my seat. While the class buzzed with talk about Jessica, Jennifer was already calmly working through a new set of problems, as if nothing had happened. Watching her frown in concentration over a tough question, I suddenly felt 17 again and couldn't resist a rare, childish boast. Nice work. If you'd switch seats, you wouldn't have me, the great tutor, around to help. She didn't look up, but her pen paused. I didn't stay because I wanted you to tutor me. Surprised, she replied at all. I blinked before asking. Then why? She was quiet for a moment, then murmured softly. Whenever you see her, you look sad. Like it hurts somewhere inside. How could it not hurt? Every time I saw Jessica, I relived the moment Emily fell before my eyes. I'd thrown away everything, yet still couldn't catch her. In the end, my heart plummeted with her, shattered to pieces. But I hadn't expected that while I'd managed to fool Jessica, Jennifer could feel it. I turned away, pretending to rummage through papers, fighting the sting behind my eyes. Jennifer didn't ask, didn't press, just went back to finishing her problem. After that, she never brought it up again. She wasn't nosy, nor was she cold. She simply understood boundaries warm, but with distance. As the college entrance exam drew nearer, Jennifer and I moved forward side by side, silent but in sync. The once gossipy classmates quieted down, and Jessica finally began to panic. Only when she tried to study again, desperate to catch up to her former self, did she realize it was too late. Those lessons had been gone too long, so long they no longer recognized her. Picking them up again was anything but easy. As someone who had realized that truth long before she did, I knew it all too well. So when she asked me to tutor her, I refused without hesitation. It was then that I finally understood why she'd tried to test if I, too, had been reborn. If I didn't have memories of my past life, she could go on using me. How could someone be so shameless? I don't think I'll ever understand. Sometimes the distance between two people is greater than that between a human and a beast. During those last days of high school, I stopped paying attention to Jessica. Whether she succeeded or failed had nothing to do with me anymore. But I never imagined she'd resort to cheating in the college entrance exam. I only heard about it at the class dinner after the exams ended. Jessica had been caught cheating during the integrated subject test. All her results were voided, and she was banned from taking the exam for the next 3 years. I was stunned. How could she have become so foolish? She could have repeated a year and started over. Yet she chose the worst possible path. That stain would follow her for a long time. After the exams, the school forum exploded with posts about her first love, miscarriage, cheating. Some pitied her, saying a once promising student had fallen from grace. But most said she had brought it on herself. She had buried her own glory with her own hands. The gossip didn't die down until the exam results came out, replaced by a new headline. Jennifer was the top scorer in the entire province. And I was right behind her, just 1 point short. We were both admitted to the same top university. When interviewed by reporters, Jennifer sincerely thanked me on camera. She said she'd once thought studying was lonely and hard, but now she knew that with someone like-minded beside you, it's neither lonely nor hard. Watching her on TV, I was deeply moved. Jennifer thanked me, but I owed her gratitude too. Because of my past life, I'd carried so much anger and pain. I'd become spiteful, wanting Jessica to fall into the same hell I once knew. Only when I tutored Jennifer did I feel like I wasn't such a bad person after all. Right before the new semester, Jennifer invited me to register at the university together, but I didn't go with her. I still had something unfinished. With the red envelopes I'd received after the exams, I bought a burial plot and built a cenotaph for my Emily. It was called a tomb. But in truth, I couldn't even find a single piece of her clothing. In this life, she had never even existed, yet she was always in my heart. On the day the coffin was laid into the ground, I placed a longevity locket inside the empty urn. The cemetery staff must have seen too many strange things, though they found me odd they didn't ask. When the ceremony was done, they quietly left me alone to pray. Dear Emily, I hope in your next life you'll be born into a loving family, healthy, happy, and blessed, with a long, peaceful life. After saying goodbye to Emily, I headed north alone to start college. Jennifer and I were in different departments, both with heavy coursework, so we didn't see each other often. But when we had time, we'd grab meals together. I thought our friendship would remain just that steady and simple, until one night, I got a call from her. She sounded urgent, said she needed to talk. Panic hit me instantly. I ran out in slippers toward her dorm and met her halfway down the path. She looked serious, panting hard. I forced myself to calm down and asked what was wrong. She looked straight at me and said, "I like you." Her tone was solemn and certain, as if she were stating a mathematical theorem. I froze, my mind bursting into 1,000 fireworks. My heart pounded with each explosion. Today, I suddenly wanted to see you for no reason at all. But every question should have an answer, shouldn't it? After ruling out all the impossible ones, I found the solution. I like you. She spoke with analytic precision, then asked, "Do you like me?" Instinct told me the answer. Of course I did. Like a flower blooming naturally on a branch. But I hesitated. I carried the memories of 2 lives. I had lived another life entirely. Was that fair to Jennifer? A correct answer required complete, truthful information. I wanted to tell her everything, then wait for her decision, but she cut me off. Right now. Do you like me? She pressed. And before I could speak, she added, "I can see the answer in your eyes." Then she rose on tiptoe and kissed me. That day became the first day of our love. After that, we shared long years together. After graduation, I started working while she pursued her research. Once again, her old high school invited her to give a speech, and this time, I went with her. Hearing we were back, our classmates used it as an excuse to organize a reunion. When someone mentioned Jessica, I felt a brief flicker of disbelief. The name had long vanished from my life, and hearing it again stirred no waves. Those who kept up with gossip said she never retook the exam and somehow got tangled up with Jason again. But last year, after another fight, they got into a car crash. Jason died on the spot, and Jessica was left crippled. I couldn't help but sigh. Jason had still died in a car accident. Fate truly was unpredictable. The topic soon shifted. No one really cared about Jessica anymore. A few words and she was forgotten. At the end of the reunion, Jennifer and I announced our upcoming wedding. Our classmates cheered and promised to come to our wedding. I never expected to hear from Jessica again. She sent Jennifer a message, claiming Jennifer was just my substitute, that she was my true love. Reading it, that old disgust for Jessica welled up in me again. Jennifer, on the other hand, stayed calm and even comforted me. Holding Jennifer's hand, I gradually calmed down too. As she said, we shouldn't let irrelevant people affect our happiness. But some people's shamelessness defies imagination. On the day of our wedding, the hotel staff told me someone was asking for me. I went to greet them and found Jessica standing there, dressed in white. She started crying the moment she saw me. Luke, it's been so long. Have you thought of me all these years? I had a dream, she went on. In it, we both got into college on recommendation, married soon after graduation, and lived such a beautiful life. We were meant to be together. I watched her coldly as she performed. Seeing no reaction from me, she pressed on. I know you blame me for choosing Jason, but he tricked me. Can't you forgive me? Let's start over, please. As she spoke, she suddenly lunged toward me. I stepped aside at once. She fell hard to the ground, and I took another step back so she wouldn't touch my shoes. It was time to end everything. I said slowly, Jessica, how dare you come to me? You said you had a dream then. Do you still remember Emily? The moment she heard Emily's name, her face went pale. She stared at me in horror. You, when did you come back? I looked down at her, cold and detached. The day you and Jason got that hotel room, she froze. Then realization dawned and her expression twisted as she began to scream hysterically. Luke, you hated me! You did all this on purpose! It's your fault I became what I am! Even in the end, she blamed everyone but herself, never realizing all of it was her own doing. I glanced at my watch and gave her my final words. I simply did as you wished, stayed out of it. At my signal, the security guards dragged her out of the hall. I turned away and walked toward the happiness that awaited me. As the wedding march played, I stepped forward with steady resolve through the blessings of family and friends. And there at the end of the flower-lined aisle stood Jennifer, smiling as she looked at me. In that moment, I seemed to hear God whisper in my ear, Human, I gave you the gift of love so that you would give it to those who deserve it. Bless you, you finally found the right answer.